Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation, Peter. This morning, I'm going to show, firstly, a very brief video, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the mega trends that we observe. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the vision that we have here in the country, and finally try and bring it all together and say why these things are so related to each other. So I mentioned mega trends, so we've seen where we're involved, but the mega trends are things that are globally going on, and some people question the relevance in terms of the scale of their cities. But if you think about it, if it's happening in Delhi, Dublin, Derry, Derby, Dundee, and I apologise to anybody from Wales, I couldn't think of a city beginning with D, they happen but in different scales. So we talk about globalisation, it's about growth and business. Today, about 50% of the global GDP comes from the top 600 cities in the world. That's generated by 21% of the population, but there's a change coming. By 2025, we expect to see 50% of the GDP coming from emerging cities. In terms of the growth that we see, or in terms of urbanization, we have, for the first time in 2009, more than 50% of the global population moved to cities. The growth will go from 3.5 billion people in cities to about 4.7 billion people in cities, and the challenges that it brings with us. Cities consume 2/3 of all the energy. They consume 60% of all our water, and they generate 70% of all our carbon. So again, these are the challenges that will be there through urbanization. We also have the challenge of demographic change. The population is growing older. A recent study that I've seen from within the EU estimates that an additional 1.25% of the EU's GDP will have to go towards health care for the elderly by, I think it's about 2060, and that's a very significant sum. And then finally, we get climate change. Now, climate change will cause a lot of more extreme weather conditions, and that in itself creates its own challenges. And we just take two to just give you some indication. In 2011 in Thailand, we had 6 months of rain, and the damage that was caused came to about $45 billion of damage. It flooded 14,000 businesses, 700,000 homes, and put 600,000 people out of work. It had a major impact on the supply chain for electronics, pharmaceuticals, pulp and paper. And it caused businesses to consider whether they should be investing in that country and in those cities. And it's also caused the city to commit to a $9 billion expenditure program to try and make their city more resilient. You go to 2012, when Hurricane Sandy hit in the States. For the first time since 1888, the New York Stock Exchange was down for 2 days. 1 day without energy in New York costs $1 billion. The damage in Hurricane Sandy were estimated at $50 billion. And just to give an indication of the extremes that we're seeing, the 500-year watermark was surpassed at 2/3 of the points around where the water hit. And another interesting study that we've just completed together with ARUP and the RPA around New York looks at the frequency of these one-off events. Up until about 2000, we had a 1 in 100 year. Sorry, it took 100 years for an extreme event to occur. We now estimate that it'll be 1 in every 15 years that these extreme events occur. So we need to make our cities more resilient. And also the challenge in New York at that stage, evacuation of major hospitals. So they're the problems that the cities are facing. So there's some of the challenges. And then if I take the vision that we have, and I'm just going to pinch a little bit of our Taoiseach's statement, making Ireland the best small country in which to do business, get a job, raise a family, and grow old. In order for us, or any city, to do that, we need to make ourselves more resilient. And I've shown where I think some of those challenges are coming from. And I think the way to make our cities more resilient will be through smart applications, smart futures. And I do believe the only future is a smart future. And to take the S, I believe it'll be sustainable, and T, I believe it will be a technology-based future. That is the future for us all. Thank you.